me show you my countryside through these old headlights. We can take this road as far as you want to go. I'll show you how a country mile can take us all night. Feeling higher than a bull's tail up an old dirt road. I ain't gonna run or hide. We can let the fire burn wild. That's just my countryside.
Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. I have kind of taken a little bit of a break just to kind of recenter my energy. It's really hot, so it's been really hard to get out and do some videos, which is why I kind of did some indoor videos. If you notice the last couple that I've been posting, we did get some new chickens, and so we built this new brooder. It's like our big brooder that we're going to actually use to help transition some of our other chickens to the outside. We're going to put like a little mini brooder inside of this, and then this is called our frizzle flock. So these guys we got from the 4-H at the extension office, and they were doing like a chicken and rabbit show, and we were going to show them, but there were some regulations and some rules that we had to follow that we just were not quite comfortable with. So we went ahead and opted out of that, but my son bought these ones. We were able to get 10 for like $20. And so we ended up getting kind of a hodgepodge mix of chickens. We do have 3 that we got from a friend to help with Mama Mary when she was broody. So they're gonna kind of be raised up in here until we transfer them out. And we've been really enjoying this mix. Like, it's a lot of bantams in here. And so it's been really fun to kind of get to know other breeds. We do have some mottled Cochins. We have that guy, and then we have that guy over there. And then we have Cash is what his name is. And we found out that him and his friend over there he's a rooster, and that's a hen. And they are blue Cochins, not bantams. So they're gonna probably have to be moved out with these guys to the pasture flock when they transition, just because they're going to be too big to mount some of these smaller bantam hens. So this is Brownie, and I'm not really sure what breed she is, so if you guys recognize that breed, let me know. We do have a Polish like frizzle mix here, and I understand that frizzles are kind of becoming their own breed. He's a little bit feisty. Cash has been super good. Still doesn't want to be petted too much. Roosters do not like that. This is Cream. So he's actually very, very sweet. Hi, this is Mercy. So she actually got her head stuck in one of the feeders, and she was literally on the brink of death. And so we actually named her Mercy. And then this one, I forget this one's name. That is definitely a breed that I'm not familiar with either. I'm trying to like figure out what they all are, which has kind of been tricky. And then, hi. And then we have Faith, which is that blonde frizzle right there. There's Lightning, the other blue Cochin, and then that guy or girl back there. Still not sure what she is. So again, if you recognize the breeds, like this one and that one, not sure what those ones are, and not sure what this girl is here, but she's super sweet. She comes up. Aw, are you a sweetie? Definitely a Cochin of some mix because of the feather feet. Hi, buddy. So they've all been super good. He has kind of tested me once. I think he's kind of the leader. Oh my gosh! And they're on top of me. What are you doing up there? You better not poop. You better not poop. What are you doing? Are you gonna jump down? Oh my gosh, okay. So again, they're super friendly, which is fun. So anyways, we just kind of finished this out. We are going to be doing a coop that's going to be attached by winter. That's going to be finished. We just have other projects that we're doing right now that we're like, okay, this is good for now. And then we'll focus on those other projects and get those done. And then we'll come back to this after those are done. So we did go ahead and clear some area back here. Because it still was like really grown in back there. We had moved in and we really just have not touched it since we moved in. So we did clear some area there. We're going to do a little bit more because we will eventually do some electric fencing around this because we do want to give them more space to be able to kind of roam around outside. I have also been trying to get them trained. We still need to finish this rock around the skirt. We did some hardwire mesh and some chicken wire along the bottom here for predators on the outside, and then we're going to cover it up with rocks with that landscape fabric underneath. But we are using some scratch to basically train them to that bucket sound and then feeding them the scratch so that by the time we do let them kind of free range this area, they'll be trained to that bucket and be able to come back when we need them to come back. Because they're going to be kind of free ranging and roaming around during the day when the pasture flock is out. They've been in the pasture flock area in the brooder for a while, so they're familiar with them. But we do want to kind of free range them during the day when the pasture flock is out, and they'll be out. And then by the time pasture flock goes away around 5:30, 6 o'clock, then we will put these guys away. And that's when we let our garden flock out to kind of free range as well. So we are going to be maximizing or expanding the garden flock area, and I'll go over there and show you. I'm going to make some kind of changes because we're kind of at the end of the garden. We did take down the garden fencing that was around there and kind of let the chickens do their thing in there, search for bugs, get any other fruits that, we're okay with letting go. We've been cucumbered out and tomatoed out as much as we can possibly do that. Now I'm like, okay, we can just let the chickens in there and kind of do their thing. So the other things that are in here right now is my herbs. We have some beans, like remnant beans. We do have some peppers, and we do have like some zucchinis, pumpkins, and some of the watermelon and honeydews, and those are growing. I don't think that they're going to be bothering them too much because we do want to like see those until the harvest. But I don't think they're going to be bothering them too much just because there's such a big area for them to be in, and they're really more concerned with like the bugs and kind of getting those than they are like the actual fruits. So if those were the last things in here, then I would definitely be concerned, but there's just so much other stuff in here that they're going to be able to scratch through and pick that I'm really not too concerned with them going after those. There are some like cherry tomatoes. There's some other tomatoes that just have a little bit of like rotten spots on them. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those and then just kind of let the chickens do their thing in here. So you can see we did take down the fencing that was on this garden here. Troy's going through and he's weed whacking the rest of this area. He just mowed the middle of the garden. We're going to be expanding this garden flock area. We're going to put another one of these nettings up here and kind of just make it bigger. It's going to go past the grapes right where these carrot beds are going. It kind of will leave the round areas that we had where we were planting, and we'll be able to do mulberries on each side over there to kind of grow and kind of offer some shade as they mature. So this will go from one 100-foot netting, and we're going to expand it to 2 100-foot nettings. So that will expand their area. We are not too concerned with it, like with the grass. They may end up killing it because their poop will get too hot. But really, I just want them to have a bigger area. And again, we're going to be letting them kind of free range and kind of have whatever, you know, wherever they want to go. During the seasons next year, in like the spring and the summer, we just won't let them out as much. And when they're out, we'll just kind of keep more of an eye on them to make sure that they're not affecting things. If we need to kind of keep them into their run, then we'll just do that if they start to bother some things that we don't want them bothering. So anyways, we do, let's see. So he took down back there. We do have the pasture flock coop. Pretty soon here next month, we are going to be getting some grass seed because in the spring we're going to be putting sheep out there. So we will eventually section off that pasture to the chickens being on this front part or the side part over here, and we'll run electric netting straight back to the back to kind of section off this part of the pasture. So because they've been on that side, that part will be actually fertilized with their fertilizer and be more ready for seed. And so we're just going to do this back portion here, and then we'll do the electric netting running straight back to keep the chickens and the chickshaw over on that side of the pasture. Okay, so this is the side that I was just mentioning that the chickshaw will be moved into, and we'll just run electric netting all the way back to keep them on that side. This is the side that they've been in from like winter till today. And so this will be more ready for grass seed to be able to have enough nutrients within the soil to germinate. And so that we will definitely plant with the forage seed. We're actually going to be getting our seed from Nature Seed. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that website, but they are phenomenal. So you can look at forage, you can look for lawn, you can look for all different types of seed. And then you're also able to narrow it down by the species that you're going to be planting that seed for if you're doing pasture grasses. So they have a category for that as well. So like I go on there and I type in my zip code, and then I'm going to type in like, or click which type of like animal that you're going to be having graze on that seed in pasture. And so then it'll pull up all the different types of grasses within your area or your region based on that type of animal. And so you can look at like the sheep, and then it'll say like tropical Atlantic, and that's kind of my area. It says like transition, actually says transitional. And then you can click it, and then it'll show you like all the different types of grasses that are within that forage mix. And so that's been really cool. So we did find one that we're going to be doing back here. And again, we're going to be doing it in sections. Number one, for cost, and number two, this other half of the pasture just has not been, the chickens haven't been on it. And so they'll kind of venture over there, but the chickshaw, where the majority of their fertilizer that's concentrated, hasn't been over there. So we really don't want to do that anyways. And so that's kind of what we've been doing, is just kind of like going through, mowing the grass, moving the chickens, and that has really helped everything to grow. We do have like a variety of things that are growing in here. You can get like the plant identifier app, and while it's mostly accurate, it's not always, but we are realizing that we have a ton of native species that are growing in here, which is great. Number one, for the benefit and nutrition of the animal, it's going to have what it is needed based on our area and region. But number two, when everything else is kind of dying and not doing well with like the drought, this stuff is just doing phenomenal. So there's a lot of benefit to letting a lot of those native things grow in that, you know, if we went and just planted seed for everything, it would have definitely struggled. So we did go in and type in like what is growing out here, and a lot of this is crabgrass. And while a lot of people with lawns that mow their lawns and just have it be pretty, a lot of people don't like crabgrass. It actually has a benefit because cows and sheep both really like crabgrass. They say it's almost like a delicacy for them, like it's kind of like a sweet snack, like a sweet treat. And so we got really excited. We were like, yeah, like we felt like we just hit the jackpot. The problem is that chickens don't like to go through areas that have high grasses. And so letting that go to seed just doesn't seem to be something that we're going to be able to do. So that's the only problem. Hopefully there's been some that have gone to seed and dropped. Otherwise, if the chickens weren't out here, we would definitely just let it grow, go to seed, let that seed drop, and then it would come up next year. So that is one issue, which is why we really need to, between like September, middle of September to the end of September, that window is when we want to go through and be planting the pasture seed to make sure that we have, number one, winter forage, but then also spring and then into summer too. So these are our, as I'm going through here, I'm just kind of checking things out, but this is our asparagus that's going crazy. The other part to kind of taking this fencing off is that, like, it's electric netting, and there's just so many things in here that are just kind of growing outside of that. That makes it really difficult for the electric to be like hot. And so that's been one issue we've been facing. And then also having the electric netting against this wood, it just makes it really difficult to get like the clean lines, which I know for some people it may not matter, but because we've been kind of geared towards like HOAs and neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's just been really hard to kind of just let that go and just let it be wild. And while my garden is wild right now, there are just some things that like, we just can't stand when it just gets like crazy. I am not a pot person. Like, I cannot I cannot remember to water things that are in pots. I'm horrible. So while I felt good for a minute that I had some green going on in some pots, I just can't keep them alive. You can only do so much, right? I think that's like been the season that I'm in. I'm like, okay, like what do I need to reassess and kind of focus my energy on, because you just can't keep up with everything. So these beds, the silver beds, are going to actually be moving. We have 2 on this side of the chicken run, and we have 2 on the other side. We're actually going to be moving them to, trying to see here, to the second half of the garden down there. There we go. Because that's going to be next spring. That's going to be our like raised bed garden area. I've realized, and I've, made comments that like, raised beds dry out more. I'm just having a hard time with inflammation, and like when it gets so hot, like I just get so much inflammation from the heat. So for me, to make it a little bit better, we are going to be doing like some raised beds in that section. And then we're going to turn this section here into more of like a perennial flower garden area. We may do some like blueberry bushes, some strawberries, things like that, because we do need to increase our fruit production here, because we just go through it so fast, and I really don't want to have to buy it from the grocery store if I don't have to. And then so that's going to be like more of like a perennial. I may do some annuals here and there, but for the most part, that's going to be a perennial like flower garden. Trying to see like what works and what doesn't, what we can do well at with our like soil the way that it is, what just doesn't do as well. Like I've noticed that my peppers just don't do as well as they've done in like Arizona, and without being in those raised beds. So I am going to be kind of transferring some things that I would typically do in ground. I'm going to be doing in some of the raised beds, and we'll probably end up doing like a big huge not tarp, but like that weed fabric. And it's going to be nicer weed fabric, more of like that, like thicker, durable. And so we're just going to do it all the way down, as far like all the way down to the end. And then on top of that, we're going to do wood chips. And so that's going to be helpful. I don't know, on this first section, we probably will have to just do like cardboard and wood chips and do like a thick layer. We just need to really make sure that we're doing a thicker layer than we've been doing, because I noticed that the areas where it's really thick with those wood chips in this like Back to Eden garden, it really has helped cut down on a lot of weeds. And so that has definitely been something that we've noticed that we need to improve on, is making sure that we're not skimping out on those wood chips. Howdy. Howdy. So through here, I've been kind of just like sporadically planting different medicinal herbs through here, mixed in with like the strawberries and the blackberries and the iris, and we have like some like lamb's ear over there too. But just kind of like going through and like meticulously, I guess is the word, strategically planting different medicinal herbs. So here we have like asparagus and strawberries within this bed as well. And then we have strawberries, iris, blackberries through here. And then on this side, we have some bee balm, we have some marshmallow, we have some yarrow growing in here, some chamomile, and just doing like a selection of like a few different medicinal herbs. And then through here we have like strawberries, a wild blackberry, and then more like the blackberries, the native, or not the native, the ones that we actually grew that are thornless. And then there we have like persimmons, and then this is going to be like a medicinal flower bed. Right now it's full of weeds because I wasn't sure what was weed, what was actually going to be a flower that I want. And so I just kind of let things just kind of grow in, which I'm now regretting my choices because it's just wild and crazy. But next year I'll be able to tell like what's not supposed to be here and kind of keep up with it a little bit better. But I do want those perennial flowers to grow in there. That's like a pollinator mix. And so through here, I'm just going to kind of continue. I'll let this kind of fill in. And then through here, I'm going to do like some lavender and things just that do well within like a drought, or that are more drought tolerant, because this area does not have irrigation. You can definitely find plants that are more drought tolerant so that you'll be able to grow them back here. And these things, even with that like month stretch that we did not have any rain, it actually still did pretty well. I just went through and kind of watered when things kind of looked wilted, which was only maybe once a week. That I had to go through and manually do it myself with a sprinkler. So yeah, things are just kind of filling in. Down there, things are crazy. So what I'm gonna have to do over the winter is actually dig up my strawberry plants that are down there, anything that I want to spare besides the elderberries. And then we're gonna do cardboard, and then we're gonna do a thick layer of mulch on top of that. So the strawberries, we'll probably just uproot them and then transfer them into these beds here so that we don't completely lose them. Or I've been thinking about doing one of those green stalk towers, which I may actually ask for Christmas. And so then I'll be able to transfer some of the strawberries within those, because these have like the big mama plant, and then we have the runners that are now growing as well. So we'll definitely be able to have more if we take some of those, and especially save the runners, because each generation will want to keep, because the mama plant will only grow for about 5 years, they say. I've never tested it, but it'll only actually produce strawberries for 5 years. Then everything else hinges on those runner plants producing. So definitely want to make sure that we are saving those runners and kind of relocating them whenever you can, so that they can just continue to spread as well. So we're moving, we're actually adding. So we're going to be adding the extra fencing here. The only thing that was kind of like, I'm not really sure, is the grapes, but I know that the chickens love the grapes, and they've been super small, so we really haven't been actually eating them ourselves. So while the grapevines are still shorter, I don't mind the chickens coming in here and like picking those off for snacks. As these grapes grow taller, the chickens will not be able to get to them up there. So it really is not going to be a concern. The only thing I was maybe thinking was maybe the poop getting too hot, but I think those grape roots grow pretty deep down, and so that should not be a concern. It'll just add extra fertilizer. And again, these two metal beds here are going to be moving into the raised bed section of the garden down there, and so we'll just have like one half of that big area will just be a raised bed section. So one of the reasons why we're doing this spacing is, again, like I mentioned, with like doing this fencing right up against the wood, it's just so hard to maintain it. And we want to make sure that we're able to get around our garden without having to go through fencing and stuff like that. So this will be easy to get a lawnmower through here and be able to maintain with a weed whacker this border here. We did this border, if you guys remember back when we first did the garden, because we're kind of on like a slight slope, and so like my beds were just getting like a lot of washout, and so we did have to put this border in here to kind of keep things in place, which has worked really well. The only concern or part that kind of gets a little bit of a washout is through here, just because it's a little bit more even in some areas, and so we do get a tiny bit there when we get like huge rains. Okay, so here is an update on the sweet potatoes. They are now going to flower. It's got lots of weeds, so I have not been maintaining it. I've been lucky just to get out here. And so it is going to flower, which means that it's pretty much like getting really close. I can probably actually check them. But yeah, we'll come back and see how that's going. The high tunnel is a mess. I've just been kind of letting the tomatoes do their thing in there anymore, just because they're nearing the end of their cycle. And so we're actually going to be tearing out the tomatoes in there, because this cover, it just keeps ripping. Like, this is the second one that we've had. This is just like a cheap version, which is great to kind of test it out, but it really was not meant to be like a long-term growing solution. And while I would love to have one of those huge high tunnels that would basically extend from the end all the way to the front of my shed, I would love to have that. But because this just keeps ripping, it's not going to be good for like planting seedlings. It's not going to be good for seed starting. It's not going to be good for keeping the chickens out because the doors are ripped, keeping pests out, stuff like that. So it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. So we will end up moving the frame out to the pasture once we get sheep, and we'll put some covering on it to provide some shade. And so that will be their shade structure. And we'll just kind of move it around as we move the sheep to each different new section, so that we can kind of stay ahead of the parasite load and make sure that they're not going to be on any area for too long. Jade. Hey girls. Hi Winter. Hey pretty. Hi girl, you hot? It is so hot, huh? Okay, so here's a little bit of an update on our pasture. If you guys remember, like, go back and look at the pasture prep series. It's so crazy how different this is. So this is where we have our pasture flock. If you're new here, this is where we keep our pasture flock out in the chickshaw. There's videos that we did that go over like our fencing install and putting that in. And I would say for this 2 acres of pasture, this cost us about $3,000. If that gives you kind of an idea. There's Keith. He's like, get over here. Yeah, she's like, okay. Anyway, So it costs about $3,000. So if you're looking to get into homesteading, that's basically what a 2-acre area would look like, doing it as cheaply as possible with this woven wire fencing. So there's definitely, like we got these posts here, and then we went a little bit cheaper on this like H brace here that we used, just because the wood for these big posts were so expensive, and there's even bigger ones at this that you can do. So it just depends on like what you're trying to keep in, I guess. So yeah, it's just not, like, things are just not cheap. It's crazy. And we actually had help from family to put this in, because they are really supportive of like what we're doing here. And so obviously with the times that we're in, like, things are just so insane. So we did get some help from our family, so we're very appreciative for that. But yeah, it's just been so fun seeing this pasture transform into what it's become. So it's taken a while for us to even figure out like what we want to put in here. Going back and forth between sheep and goats and, you know, pasture pigs like coonies or steer or dairy cow. And just based off of what's here right now and what's readily available, sheep is definitely the better option. Goats are just more of like, they like to go up for their grazing. They're not like a grazing animal. They're just more of a forager. So they definitely want to like kind of go up for their food, where sheep are definitely more of a grazer, which is what we have in here. So if we were talking about like back in the back, all the way back there, then definitely goats would be the better option, because there's just so much like up high that we want cleared, and you know, even pigs being able to like root back there. But it's just not where we're at right now. We want to make sure that we get this first about 5 acres kind of established. And so, yeah, so we're really excited to be able to do sheep out here. We'll probably do like, you know, some males first and just get like kind of some experience under our belt that we'll harvest and stuff. Maybe we'll do one for us to put in the freezer, and then maybe a couple family members or something too. So anyways, yeah. We're excited. We've come a long way. We've come a long way in this journey. We've done it slowly. We've done it methodically. You know, there's a lot of people that do things a lot faster, which is great. It's fun. It's thrilling. But my husband, number one, is more of like, take things easy, think things through logically, being the voice of reason. I'm more of like, wee, this is fun, you know, like I want to just like do it all, which I know comes with a lot of like headache too. So we want to make sure that we avoid that, especially because people these days, we just don't have money to be tossing around anywhere on doing, you know, making mistakes and getting ahead of ourselves. And so it's been very different in how I would normally approach things, to do things slowly like this. But yeah, it's been nice that we've been able to kind of get you know, the experience with the chickens, kind of become more of like the chicken farmers instead of just like completely like newbies, being able to troubleshoot health issues with them, and, you know, just doing the right thing by them has been also something that we've learned. You know, I called it like the year of the chicken, like, you know, and like the Chinese whatever that they do. Not to be insulting, I'm just not familiar with like what it's called. But yeah, so like the year of the chicken or the year of the ox type stuff, like it was the year of the chickens. So yeah, it'll be nice to do like the year of the sheep next year. We are thinking about doing the hair sheep for sure. So if you have experience between wool sheep and hair sheep, let me know. Those differences are that you have experienced just within like raising them. I know that the hair sheep, and depending on how you raise them, the hair sheep, you don't need to like trim their hoofs as much. I know some people still do, like especially if you give grain, those types of things. But just give me all the info that you have or the experience that you have and drop it down in the comments, because I definitely am open to learning all the things that I possibly can before they come. So anyways, I think that's gonna be it for me. It's really hot. I'm trying my best to like put on a happy face because it's so hot. So anyways, thank you guys for tuning in for another video. Thank you to each and every one of you who have been so supportive. Thank you for liking and subscribing and helping to grow our channel and our community here as we continue our shenanigan journey on our 16 acres here in the central Piedmont area of North Carolina. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
thought Domino had at one point.
Yeah, it was just shaped a little different.
Yeah, it was different.